Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle, and where's my headphones?
Right there, deaf. Danielle. I tell you. We got to figure this out one of these days, guys. Welcome. It's Friday, and you know what Friday is. It is Relationship Q&A. This is an opportunity for you to ask your questions, so put it in the chat or text us at 678-200-8996. We're glad that you're with us here this morning. There's a lot we want to talk about, but before we get started with today's program, you have to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and there it is. That's our handle, at Couples Academy. We want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel because every day you're going to get notifications. And even on Facebook, every day you're going to get notifications. So when we go live, boom, you get it. And then you share it with your community so that their lives can be transformed as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Folks, let's get it. We're about to get started. Get your questions in the chat. We'll be right back. We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, founders of Couples Academy, a private practice dedicated to saving marriages around the world.
We're not just recognized authorities on relationships. We're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission? To change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships.
This is the Couples Academy show.
Interestingly enough, women have become the men whom they seek. I'll say that again. Women have become the men whom they seek. Most women want a man with a good job, making good money, a provider, a protector, a nurturer, one who can fulfill all those roles, and because she can't find one, she becomes one. And so now as she empowers herself and all of those, I'm not saying you become a man literally. What I'm saying is the things that you're looking for in a qualifiable man, you begin to, am I right? You begin to wear that mantle. And so now you've got the job, see, but the problem is everything that you accomplish in your life becomes the new standard by which you judge all future relationships. So if you have a job, he better have a good job. If you make $100,000, he better not make $1 less. If you own your own car, he better not be on the bus. If you own your own house, he better not rent. If you can bench press 250 pounds, he better come correct. So everything that you do, he's got to do equally as good or better. And if he doesn't, he's X'd off of your list.
Now, remember when we were traveling before the pandemic and we had the opportunity to travel all over the country doing singles conferences? It was fun because we got an opportunity to talk to single people about what makes a relationship work, how to choose the right one, what decisions to make, how to prepare yourself for that situation.
Yeah.
And we realized that, you know what, a lot of people, not only do they not know how to properly engage in a relationship, some people just don't know how to date.
They don't, and what I love about it is that the preview, that we get to offer these singles who are marriage minded is huge, because now they get a chance to see, okay, this is what you have in front of you, this is what you're going to deal with, these are some of the pitfalls that you need to avoid. It actually gets folks in the mindset, okay, I'm going to need some support, like long-term support. I might want to get myself into some counseling now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because premarital, pre-engagement, or just regular counseling, period, is important. Because, listen, we've got 3 relationships, right? The relationship we have with God, that's our vertical relationship. The relationship we have with ourselves, that's our internal relationship. And then the relationship we have with others. And guess what? You're the lowest common denominator in every relationship that you enter into.
Absolutely.
So if you come from a broke, busted, and disgusted relationship with hurt and you haven't gotten over your issues, you're just taking you into someone else's world with your brokenness, and we go from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, wondering why they don't work out, because we haven't worked things out of us. And so when you go through that detox, getting that man out of your system, or that she-tox, getting that woman out of your system from the past, and you become whole and complete within yourself, you now can enter into another relationship with the right foundation. And so listen, that's what we're talking about. These are the things that we're dealing with. Listen, ask your questions, get them in, because that's what we're here to do.
I see them coming in. I want to welcome my people, because you guys are in here popping in left and right. Good morning, Torre. Tamanisa, JD, good to see you, my brother. Clarence, E, Talisha, Michelle, D, Richard, Kiera's here. Danielle is here. Hey, Danielle. Angela, and Noxola. Let's just give everybody a warm welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and always making sure to let other folks know. Hit that notification bell. Did you miss it again? There are so many times when people will jump in here and post and say, I made it live. Yes, they're so excited. Well, tell your friends and family who you're sharing this with. Make sure to hit that notification bell. You don't want to miss when they go live.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into a question. A question comes in from Richard. It says, how do you get over your spouse dating and sleeping with someone else during the breakup and lying about it? Now, if you're saying this is your spouse and there was a breakup, I'm assuming you're saying we went on a separation or we were split but still legally married. And so these are the challenges because, interestingly enough, a good portion of people who do have affairs do it when they're under different roofs, right? They're in a separated space. They're trying to figure out what they want to do because people approach separation differently. Some look at it as, you know what, I just need some time to clear my head, to clear my mind, figure things out, and then maybe we can get back into this relationship. Other people look at it as, you know what, one step towards divorce. I thought it was over. There was no hope for a future, so I was just going to do my thing. And what happens is overwhelmingly, people do come back together. And while they were separated, they were doing things. They were living their life. They were dating. They were meeting other people. They were having sex. And then the relationship is restored, and now you have to deal with all of the drama that took place during that separation. And so technically, you are still legally married. And that's why we say, listen, I don't care if you've been separated a month or a year or whatever the case may be. You should not be engaging in any other relationship until that relationship is officially over, because there is residue that will come when you get back together. Overwhelmingly, a large portion of our couples deal with that very issue. And that's why I think it's important to have ground rules when you separate.
Yeah, I was going to say those ground rules, and that's why we offer the controlled separation support, so that those ground rules are established from the very beginning, because we all have different mindsets, and a lot of times the reason why we're separating in the first place was because some kind of infidelity, something major like that. You know, people don't typically separate because of communication problems necessarily, though it does happen in rare occasions. But most of the time when you're separating, it's because there was an infidelity. So you know that that's an issue. To have specific rules and guidelines, knowing when you walk into this separation that we have a goal to get back together, that is humongous, and we support our couples in that. So if you're thinking about doing a separation, do not do it on your own, because it often opens the door to bring in so much more hurt on top of what was already done that you have to now work through.
Actually, Richard followed up. He said, yes, we were separated and now we're reaching reconciliation. However, I'm finding it hard to stop thinking about it. And so you're dealing with triggers, right? And oftentimes the reason why you're still thinking and ruminating and obsessing about it, maybe you two haven't had a qualified, comprehensive conversation about everything. And so there's thoughts in your mind, residue from what has happened, and it hasn't been clarified, and you don't have closure. And this is why couples stay trapped in what we call the discovery phase for a long period of time. They're still discovering bits and truths of information along the way. And so that's why we guide you through what we call full disclosure, which is much more comprehensive. So I would say just reach out to us. Let's set up a phone call to see if we can come up with a game plan to get you two through what you're going through.
Absolutely.
All right, we have a question that someone sent in to us that we want to take a minute to acknowledge. All right, Thelma Brown says, what if your spouse is in denial of the hurt and pain he's caused with infidelity? How do you heal past that to stay or leave? We're going to tackle this first part. What if your spouse is in denial of the hurt or pain that he's caused with infidelity? Here's the reality. If I were to ball up a fist and punch you in the face and knock you on the ground, right? You would get up eventually, but your chin, your face may be throbbing for a couple hours, couple days. You know, I can see you holding it. Maybe you're putting ice packs on it. Let's just say you broke your leg and now you're on crutches and in a cast for a couple weeks. I can see your pain. I have an appreciation for the pain you're going through because I can visibly see what you are going through. But when it comes to an emotional wound, you can't see it. It's intangible. So I hear you complaining about it. I see you weeping and crying, but I don't have a respect for that because there's no physical demonstration. And that's the problem, right? And so that's why it is important that your husband truly understands what you're going through. And oftentimes when you're complaining about it, they're not hearing you. They're not open to what you're saying. And that's why it's important for your husband or whoever that person may be to gain an understanding and to learn about infidelity and its impact and effect.
And I would also add to that, I love that analogy, the punching in the face and the bruise that you're going to see on that face. You can't hide that. But then there's a healing process that takes place, right, where you don't necessarily see the black and blue. And oftentimes, because when I hear that question, it's almost like that person is screaming for validation, like, you did this to me, and it's going unacknowledged. And the facts are that you may never, ever get that acknowledgement. You consider the fact that sometimes people leave your life without ever acknowledging your hurt and pain. Sometimes people are completely unaware of the hurt and pain that they caused you because they just don't know about it or don't understand it. And then there are some people that plain out will refuse to ever acknowledge the hurt and pain that they caused you. And so at the end of the day, the onus is on you, because when that bruise heals up and you can't really see it on the outside, you still feel it on the inside. And I think a lot of times we are, kind of stuck involuntarily in that victim mode. Like, we want you to know you hurt me, and we're holding on to it until you acknowledge me. And the onus is on you to release that hurt and to release that pain. It makes me think about if you went to a doctor, right? And you had the doctor check you up and down, and the doctor, finds out that you have arthritis and you got cancer and you got all kinds of other things going on inside your body. And we're going to get all this straightened out. The doctor says to you, I'm going to fix everything that you got going on, this heartburn and all these other things you got going on. We're going to fix that. And then at the end of the doctor's appointment, your doctor starts writing prescriptions and says, okay, have a nice day. And then you say, well, give me my prescriptions. And he says, no, I'm going to give this to your husband. I'm going to give this one to your mother. I'm going to give this one to your uncle, to your sister, right? What if the doctor started giving the prescriptions to all the people around you that have hurt you, instead of giving it to you? Because at the end of the day, you're the sick one, right? The person that hurt you has possibly moved on without a scratch. You think about car accidents, like when somebody is a drunk driver. It's so crazy how the drunk driver who causes so much turmoil oftentimes walks away without a scratch. People may have died, cars crumbled, trees tore up, houses busted through. And the alcoholic that was driving the car walks out without a scratch, right? And here you are hurt and busted up. We have got to own our responsibility, take it on as our own job, our mantle for our own life, to grow past the hurt that will be inflicted upon us. We don't get to choose that. I don't get to choose what happens to me in 15 minutes from now. I just don't. Right? It's only what I choose to do with the hurt that makes the difference.
I think that's a powerful point, because oftentimes the hurt spouse is waiting for the unfaithful spouse to do it all. And the reality is both of you have a part to play. While he or she, the offender, has to do their work, you have to do your work, and you can't switch roles.
Yeah,
right?
and you can't control the other person.
You really can't.
Right.
And so if you can't control the other person and that other person's not doing what they're supposed to do, you still have to do what you need to do for yourself to bring about your healing. And I think that's where the greatest empowerment is, because when you don't and you sit back and you wait, then what you've done is you've given up your power. You've given your power completely over to somebody else to help heal yourself. Yeah. And so this is why we talked about early in the show, the 3 relationships that we have. The one with God, vertical, the one with ourselves, internal, and then the one with our spouse. And if you're anchored in God and you have a spiritual source that you're relying upon, trust me, the 2 of you alone could do amazing things. Yeah. Now, when your partner comes alongside you, which would be ideal, that's the sweet spot, then it's even that much better. So great analogy with the car accident and what happens. Kia, we have a comment from Kia. Okay, here it goes. It's so hard to understand how someone really cannot identify why they stepped out. This is what holds people up the most.
Yeah.
It's not just so much the what, like the who, what, when, where, how of the affair, but it is the why of the affair. And oftentimes a person either has no clue, I don't know why I did it, I don't know,
Yeah.
or they have a very surface understanding as to why they did it. And so this is why when you work with someone,
Or blaming.
or they blame. Right. I don't know why I did it. This is why I did it.
Or because you didn't do this,
Exactly.
I didn't have this, so I
Exactly.
went and did that.
It's a constant blame shift.
Yes.
And you're taking no responsibility, and you become oblivious to yourself.
Yeah.
And the reality is often, and when I hear that, well, if you didn't do this, or if you had done that, I wouldn't have done it. Listen, at the end of the day, a person that you're in a relationship with, when you're going through trials and tribulations and struggles, there's pressure that you're dealing with. But that pressure is taking what's in you out of you. It's not it's causing you to do something that you would have never done. A lot of times, there's a history there. There are idiosyncrasies that people have, and that when this pressure comes on, that's how they choose to respond. Both of you may have contributed to the vulnerability in the relationship, but the one who cheated has to take 100% ownership of what he or she has done, period. Mm-hmm. And see, when you don't understand the why, then the possibility of it happening again is there, because you don't know what led to it in the first place. Or if you improperly diagnose the why, now you have a prescription that doesn't work, and you can't get beyond it.
Mm-hmm. I think the why is important. Most of us walk around Earth just completely unconscious about our whys in general. We just do things. We have no idea why we do. That's just the way I am. And we have yet to do the deep digging to understand why that's the way I am. What happened? When did I miss the values? Or how were my values shaped that when I get under a certain amount of pressure, I act out in these ways? Because we all act out in ways when we get under a certain level of pressure. But depending on my values and what's going on within me determines how I respond under pressure. So a lot of times people are, to answer your question, like why don't people know why they do what they do? Is because they're unconscious to deep-seated pain, deep-seated hurt, deep-seated trauma from years beyond or before you. And this is why we love to let people know, listen, this isn't about you. When I sit in front of a couple and we're going over their Enneagrams, I love to break the news to the one who is saying, well, she wasn't there for me in this way, or he didn't do this, and so I stepped out. I love to break the news to them that you had this brokenness before you came into this relationship. And then I can literally draw the map to that place where that brokenness happened. And then it's like shocking to them. Like, I was that person. I did feel neglected as a child. I did feel ignored. I did feel like I was the one that had to fix everything. I did feel like I was the one that had to be excellent and perfect at everything. So now I'm with this one here, and my self-worth is in question. Or now I don't feel as smart as I used to feel, or I don't feel as desired, or I just have this insatiable need that could never be cured because no one ever told me I was good enough. You see, we have to get to those places and heal those places so that we can heal our future.
Excellent point. Here's another question from Vashan. Does it make sense that I keep the receipts, proof of her cheating, if I have forgave my wife and we've moved on? Excellent question. Here's the deal. We're now doing intensives with couples, and we're in the disclosure phase and talking about things, and certain points come up, and then immediately the betrayed spouse grabs their phone and they're scrolling through pictures. See, 2019 on May 4th, this is when they were here. And then they're scrolling and see this text message. They're reading the text out loud, and they've got all the evidence. They've got receipts. They got everything. They literally have a dossier, right? Files, of everything associated with that affair. And the one thing that we encourage people to do is to delete, to destroy, to burn, to set on fire, to set ablaze all of the evidence, because as long as you hold on to the evidence, the proof of what has happened, you are constantly living in it, right?
That's right.
So you're holding on to your past. You want to move beyond it, but you keep holding on to it. And every
Right.
time you see it and every time you go through it, you're re-triggered again. And it's like you're reliving the experience for the first time
Correct.
again. And though you thought you've moved forward, the moment you time travel back to that moment, boom, you're in those emotions
It's
again.
so true. And you know what's crazy is that a lot of times, instead of burning those receipts and all that evidence that bring about triggers and hurt and emotional pain, they start burning and tearing up the good memories, like ripping up marriage photos and pictures of you with the children and this trip and this vacation. It meant nothing and all that. You don't keep that evidence that there's something to hold on to, that there's something to fight for, that there was a strong foundation at one point. And let's investigate where along the trail did we lose our way, because you know, your history are your breadcrumbs, right? So if you have good moments all the way up to a certain point, you can actually figure out where things went wrong. But instead, you tear that up. You tear up your great history and hold on to the receipts. And to Hassani's point, it's like, you know, sailing in a boat and dropping an anchor in the deep sea of hurt and pain, and then trying to sail away, holding on to all those hurtful images, pictures, and receipts.
Wow. It's so true, guys.
How far are you gonna get?
See, the reality is you don't have to consciously remind yourself of what has happened, because your subconscious mind records everything, right? It's there. So you don't need to build statues and memorials of what has happened. And so I think that's a great question. So I encourage you, and all of you who are listening, remove it, release it. If your spouse is the one holding on to it, sit down with your spouse, watch this video together. Because you know what? Overwhelmingly, couples are like, you know what? No problem. Okay. And we go through that burning and deleting process.
And I would say, you know, reach out. Like, don't try to do these things alone, okay? Because there is a such thing as going through the full discovery and discussing all those things and consciously together deciding to let it go, right? It's one thing for you to just go do it on your own. You're willy-nilly. You're trying to piece together processes of what you've heard here, there, and everywhere. But reach out and get yourself under some strong leadership that can help you do this thing right and close that chapter so you can move on.
Here's another question from Aaron. Aaron? I'm sorry.
Aaron?
Yeah. Should I expect my partner to tell me everything? I've asked, but only received 50%. They don't know that I know more than I do. I want them to admit before I can forgive. That's a great point. You know, this is the struggle when these conversations are had alone. You remain in the discovery phase. And this is why I don't care who you go to. Like, we keep on encouraging you to set up a discovery call and let's figure out what we can do, because this is what we specialize in. A lot of therapists and counselors are great, but they don't necessarily specialize in this type of process. We prepare you for full disclosure. There's a part that you play, and there's a part that your spouse, if they're the offender, has to play in preparation for the conversation. And then when the conversation happens, we are part of that conversation, and we're able to help navigate what's happening. Because here's the reality. You ask a question, right? Your spouse gives an answer, but you're going to hear something very different than what I heard or what Danielle heard. Why? Because you're listening with emotional ears. And then we're going to say, no, that's not what they said. What they said was, and then we will re-articulate what they said in a way that it makes sense. Another time you'll ask a question, they'll give an answer, and you won't like the answer. Or maybe you don't understand the answer, and you've attached a different meaning to what they said than what they meant. And then we come in and say, wait, hold on. Let me help bring context to what was just said to make all of this make sense. And then once we explain what it is, you're like, oh, okay, now I get that, because all along I've been holding on to this thought and this idea, but the way you just explained that, yeah, that makes sense. Or you may be asking questions and hitting a brick wall. And so we'll say, listen, do you mind if we jump in? Can we ask a few questions? Can we ask a few questions so that we can go 5 layers deeper? And then as we're doing that, we're pulling things out that you weren't able to get out. And so it becomes a comprehensive approach that we take because we prepared you for it, we were a part of it, and both of you leave feeling so much better.
So true, guys. You got to reach out if you're in need. I want to jump back up to this one because I think we skipped it. Kia says, surprisingly, we are moving forward better than I expected, but we are doing the work. but I feel guilty when I start to laugh with him. I feel like I'm not supposed to be happy with him so soon. This is something that is huge. And it is a huge stumbling block that people stumble over, fall down, and don't get up from. And so it could be years that you're still feeling this way and holding on. It's one of the reasons why people get stuck and are unable to move forward, because these emotions arise and you almost feel like, how did I allow this person to get away with this? Like they were allowed to do this to me, and I allowed them to do this to me. And it's in the back of your head. And there's a very quick trick that I'm going to give you to deal with those things on the spot. Somebody else had said down the line, I think it was Yolanda. I saw that, Yolanda. She said, sounds good or something like that, but easier said than done. I'm telling you that it is the simple things that confuse the wise. We think we need to go through some big mental process and it's got to take 30 years. It doesn't. It actually takes immediate action when you feel these senses of resentment, emotional fatigue, anger, when you sense the unforgiveness. That is called resentment. And when you deal with that, or when you're experiencing that, in the moment you must catch it. And you must say, it's okay to let it go. I'm free to let it go. Now, how simple is that, right? But just doing that with every issue that is burdening you when you feel it. Some people have confusion in the head. It's like they just can't control their thoughts. A million thoughts going through their head. They're mentally and emotionally fatigued over the thought. Say to yourself, it's okay to let it go. I'm free to let it go. It's okay to forgive. And what I love about saying it's okay is that it's not a definite. It's not, I have to forgive. I have forgiven, because a lot of people really struggle with that, because it's like, I haven't. So you don't want to say, you want to say truths. You want to speak truths. You don't want to speak conflicting comments to yourself, right? But saying it's okay to let it go. If you're a heart person and you feel your stress in the heart, like broken heart feeling, hold your heart. I'm free to let it go. It's okay to let it go. I'm moving forward. Speak it to yourself. If you're a gut person and you feel it in your gut, hold your gut. And you start to feel that anger, because that's where gut people feel it. They feel an underlying anger rising up inside of them that goes up like this, right? It's okay to let it go. I'm free to let it go. And take big breaths, and you will see you feel instantly better. That's how you capture the thought in the moment and release.
Kia says, thank you, Danielle. I will begin to breathe. I feel great and forgiving, but have battled. That really does help. Yes. Excellent point. And great exercise. I would encourage you to do that. We have another great question from Mysterious Latrice 03. How do you move forward with your spouse after being together for 10 years and he hasn't been the best to me, spirit, emotions, protector, but now, as I'm ready to leave, he says he can change? See, this is classic. This is why it's important. Listen, let me tell you guys a secret. Men and women have two completely different motivations. It's important to know about this. Women oftentimes are motivated by potential, the hope of a future gain, the possibility of what can be. So when they're in a bad situation, they'll stick it out and try to get counseling and try to get help because they see what can be done or had or experienced in that relationship. Men oftentimes, generally speaking, are motivated by the fear of loss. So when a man feels like he's about to lose his marriage, lose his family, then that's when the light bulb goes off and he's willing to do whatever it takes to restore that relationship. And so interestingly enough, 95% of the men who reach out to us are men who are in a marriage where either A, their spouse has already left and they're trying to get her back, or B, they are 1 foot out the door and they're trying to keep her from leaving. And so what we have found is that, and we don't believe in ultimatums, we don't believe in threats or any of that because it doesn't work. But if a man believes you ain't going nowhere, you right here, they don't feel the pressure to change because for what? they're not being punished.
Right.
There's no reward in trying to do the right thing. But when women get sick and tired of being sick and tired and are done and spent and just ready to go, that is just like, all right, what do we need to do? Do we need to go to counseling? Do I need to read a book? Do we need to go to a last chance weekend? Do we need to call Couples Academy and do a private marriage intensive? Like, what do we need to do? And I'm telling you now, this is a pivotal moment that you're in right now. Because if he's willing to change, I don't want you thinking, well, he's just doing it because I want to leave. Well, yes, he is. And now it's just like you don't miss the water. What's the expression? You don't miss the water till the well is dry. Sometimes you don't realize what you actually have until it's threatened with leaving. And so this is a pivotal time to now double down on getting the help that you need because he's most motivated in this moment. Do you understand that? So call us, reach out, let's figure something out to help restore your relationship.
Wow.
This is some good stuff, man. We just hit 30 minutes.
I cannot believe
this
that.
goes so fast, guys. I hope that you got something out of today.
And you know what, guys? Listen, it's hard to get to all these questions because sometimes we got to go in deep on those questions. But make sure that you know that you can actually email your questions to us, and we will read them. We read all of our emails. We'll put it up as a slide. If you want it to be anonymous, just say it's by anonymous. We'll put that up there. We will get to your questions, but we gotta wait till next week. So we show up every day, Monday through Friday. Tell your friends, tell your family, and don't miss a show, guys.
Listen, as we prepare to leave, we've been telling you about the Better Marriage Club and how you need to be a part of it, and it is free. So what we want you to do is sign up. All you need to do is text us. Right? It's free. Check out this commercial. We'll be right back. Sign up today for the Better Marriage Club and receive exclusive access to the private Facebook group to get your questions answered and your problems solved. Access to our marriage library of live seminars. Watch the Couples Academy Daily Show. Call the help hotline for laser coaching. Get our weekly action guides and receive a private one-on-one call with one of our marriage coaches. To join the Better Marriage Club, simply text MARRIAGE to 973-490-4668. Join today. Your marriage deserves it. As you can see, guys, we have a lot of programs and a lot of services that are available for you to really enhance your relationship. Now, if you have not taken your Enneagram, you do not know what you are missing.
You don't know yourself.
You don't know yourself.
If you don't know your Enneagram, you don't know yourself, and your spouse doesn't know you either. It is literally the unearthing documentation, right? Like, what is wrong? What is right? How did I become this way? And it really gives you a pathway to return to your original self, who you were meant to be. So make sure you reach out for that.
Yeah. Guys, we love you. We will see you on Monday. Have an amazing weekend. We have a great topic. Can't wait to hit it. Make sure you tune in early, and we will get it. Good day.
Bye.
See you.
If you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you're interested in one of our restoration programs, contact us today at couplesacademy.org.